This week on Vaticano, Pope Francis hears confessions during the 24 Hours for the Lord prayer initiative. Students from 50 different universities across the globe unite in Rome to provide solutions to global issues during the Vatican's first ever hackathon. And take an inside look at the early morning opening of the Vatican Museums. For this and all the Pope's recent activities, Vaticano starts now. This week, Pope Francis visited the headquarters of the Sant'Egidio community in Rome on the occasion of its 50th anniversary of foundation. The Holy Father presided over a celebration of the Liturgy of the Word inside the ancient Basilica of Santa Maria in Trastevere. The Basilica is a place where the community shelters the homeless and offers Christmas lunch to the poor.
Prayer, the poor and peace. This is the talent that the community has developed over the past 50 years.
The Holy Father thanked the community members for praying and working for peace, as well as for their collaboration with other faith-based communities in the organization of humanitarian corridors that allow the safe passage of refugees to Europe, particularly from Syria.
A globalization of solidarity and of the Spirit is yet to be built. The future of a globalized world is common living. Such an ideal requires building bridges, keeping a dialogue open, and favoring encounter.
The Sant'Egidio community was founded in 1968 by a then secondary school student, Andrea Riccardi. Now it operates in more than 70 countries worldwide. Thousands of people joined Pope Francis at the 24 Hours for the Lord prayer event in St. Peter's Basilica. The penitential service began with the Liturgy of the Word and proceeded with some reflections from the Holy Father.
We know that the state of sin distances us from God. But in fact, sin is the way that we distance ourselves from Him. Yet that does not mean that God distances Himself from us.
Pope Francis was the first to receive this gift of God's gratuitous love, and then heard the confessions of some people participating in the event. During the penitential service, the faithful were able to confess and pray to the Lord in Eucharistic adoration, the chants and psalms being sung by the Sistine Chapel choir. In a meeting with participants in the annual course on confession for young priests, organized by the Apostolic Penitentiary, Pope Francis focused his speech on the definition of a good confessor.
The confessor is not the source of mercy nor of grace. Indeed, he is their indispensable instrument, yet only an instrument.
The Holy Father warned young confessors of the dangerous temptation to become the masters of people's consciences. At the conclusion, Pope Francis said that a confessor is called to be a witness of God's mercy to the penitent. Pope Francis met with the Chancellor of Austria, Sebastian Kurz. The Chancellor is 31 years old and is the youngest political leader in Europe. The two leaders had a 35-minute private meeting where the issue of migration was the main topic of discussion. At the conclusion of the meeting, Chancellor Kurz presented the Pope with a type of certificate commemorating the anniversary of the internationally known Austrian Christmas carol, Silent Night. For his part, the Pontiff gave Chancellor Kurz a medal depicting Saint Michael slaying the demon of war, as well as a copy of his writings. The Vietnamese Archbishop of Saigon, Monsignor Paul Bui Van Doc, died in Rome during the Ad Limina Apostolorum visit, just a day after meeting with Pope Francis. The Archbishop suffered a stroke while celebrating Mass in the Basilica of St. Paul's outside the walls in Rome. The Vietnamese Episcopal Conference numbers 32 bishops. It was their first ad limina apostolorum visit with the current pontiff. The Holy See Press Office announced the next international trip of Pope Francis. The Holy Father will visit Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia in September. Archbishop Gintaras Grūzas, the president of Lithuania's Bishops' Conference, immediately responded by way of a video appeal.
Today we await Pope Francis, that he comes and strengthens us to live an authentic Christian life in the face of the challenges of today's world.
This week, Pope Francis announced the canonization of 5 future saints, including Blessed Pope Paul VI and the Salvadoran bishop, Blessed Oscar Romero. The canonization of Pope Paul VI is expected to take place in October during the Synod of Bishops, an institution that he himself founded. Paul VI led the Church from 1963 to 1978, and during his pontificate, he oversaw the conclusion of the Second Vatican Council. He also wrote his famous encyclical letter, Humanae Vitae, on God's plan for married love and the transmission of life. The future canonization is possible thanks to a miracle related to the healing of an unborn child who appeared to be suffering from a fatal disease. After the child's mother prayed to Paul VI, she gave birth to a healthy child. Bishop Oscar Romero was martyred on March 24, 1989, in El Salvador, while he was celebrating Mass. The miracle that paved the way to his canonization relates to the healing of a woman who had been diagnosed with a life-threatening condition after giving birth. The exact date of the canonizations have not yet been decided. Thanks for watching. Get ready to take a look at Holy See diplomacy in action. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
During the February session of the UN Human Rights Council, the Geneva Center for Human Rights Advancement and Global Dialogue and the Permanent Mission of Algeria organized this exhibition and panel discussion on the theme Veiling, Unveiling, the Headscarf in Christianity, Islam and Judaism.
I think it's so important that such exhibitions are held because they lead to intercultural dialogue, they lead to interreligious dialogue, they lead us to talk to one another, to share our common values and to see our differences also. We are all different, and this intercultural exchange makes us really who we are and encourages and even opens our heart larger to a universal and global friendship and brotherhood, where we respect the differences, accept the differences, and also complement one another.
Denying women their right to wear or not to wear the headscarf contradicts Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which includes the freedom to manifest one's religion or belief in public or in private.
For Catholic women, it was customary before the 1960s to cover their head when entering a church.
The biblical basis for head covering is found in 1 Corinthians 11, 2-16. Does this not apply anymore? Is this not up to date?
One could say that it's not up to date by virtue of the fact that it was then up to date. But the world has moved on 2,000 years later. So when Paul encourages women to cover their hair, it was to the people of Corinth at his time. It just simply addresses the fact that the Bible is a living book. It is not a stone, just something standing. And religions must therefore also be living practices that take in every generation, every thought, philosophical opinions to be au courant, to be up to date.
You know, that's a good example for why we need the teaching office of the church to interpret the Bible, the scriptures, not just take them as they are, but to interpret them.
Exactly, and why you have the magisterium, that's what we call it, is that the magisterium uses historical knowledge, theological, biblical, anthropological even scientific knowledge, to look at the people of each time and generation, take the central message of a biblical passage and interpret them in the life of those people. And that's Vatican II, to consider the signs of the times and interpret them in the light of the gospel.
Especially in the West, many regard traditional Muslim hijabs as a sign of oppression and forced by religion to wear the garments.
The problem as voiced by many protesters is not this headscarf as a garment, but the legal obligation to have to wear it. The legal obligation not to wear a headscarf is equally objectionable.
For Catholics, the declaration Inter Insigniores by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith has made it clear that head covering for women was a matter of ecclesiastical discipline only.
So wearing a headscarf or covering your head is not really a divine law?
It is neither divine law, nor is it even ecclesiastical law. It is tradition. But it's a beautiful tradition which some take and some do not take. In Africa, we practice it, not everywhere, in some places. In Europe, we practice it in some places and not in other places. But once people make out of the headscarf a divine law, that's where you start having ideologies.
Some European countries had banned full-face veils. For them, this is foremost a security issue.
Well, the arguments Europe may bring in is one, security, and that might be true because we live now in an era of terrorism and people may use such opportunities, but that's not principally terrorism. It's not just about terrorism, it's just about having an open culture.
As stated in an advertisement used by Lakeridge Health, a community-based hospital in Ontario, Canada, that illustrated the management's attitudes towards their female staff, they said, "We don't care what's on your head, we care what's in it."
The exhibition and panel countered misconceptions, deconstructed stereotypes, and presented the headscarf as a bridge between cultures and religions.
Over the weekend, the heart of the Catholic Church turned into a hub of technology and innovation. Students from different backgrounds, faiths, and disciplines gathered in Rome for the first ever Vatican Hackathon. Here, these innovators and computer wizards brainstorm and problem solve today's social issues. The event's co-founder, Jakub Florkiewicz, explains.
The word hackathon comes from the word hacking and marathon, but as I was saying, it doesn't have to do with hacking of computer systems, firewalls. It is about problem solving, and I would even say it's about defending causes that we believe in and that unite us. And for this hackathon we have selected 3. It is social inclusion, it is interfaith communication, and issues related to migrants and refugees.
The idea of the Vatican Hackathon, or VHacks for short, was jump-started last year when Jakub met Father Eric Salobir, the founder of Optic, a Vatican-affiliated think tank for technology.
So this idea came when some students from Harvard came and visited us. At Optic, we've already organized a couple of hackathons for the church in San Francisco and Paris. But they challenged us saying, what could you do here in the Vatican? Is the Vatican the right place to organize such an event? Because it seems to be so antique, it seems to be so brilliant, but also, so traditional. And we say, but the Vatican is also a place of technology. The Vatican is also very modern, and we show you that. And so we say, okay, let's organize that together.
Monsignor Lucio Ruiz immediately backed the idea, presented the initiative to Pope Francis, and with the Holy Father's approval, launched the program. Since then, it's been full steam ahead.
Now is the time to put the smart people to work together because the world needs smart solution for big problems.
The Vatican has all of the aspect of the social impact and the resources behind that. So to combine an institution that cares so much about social impact and improving the world and bringing that element, the awareness to students to attack these current global issues, I think that's what the link is.
For me, that was a surprise, especially coming from a Catholic background. Like, I never thought this would actually be possible. If the church is open to have that conversation, who else won't be? So I think for students, it's just a very exciting moment to learn that it's possible if they just bring their creativity, and that now that they are tech savvy and all the knowledge they have, it's possible we can actually change the world.
The students had only 36 hours to develop solutions on the assigned issues. After hard work and sleepless nights, participants presented their work at the Expo and Judging Panel.
So today we were trying to tackle dyslexia. There's a lot of studies to show that AR and VR are the best bets at sort of mitigating and managing dyslexia, but no commercialized solutions exist. So in the status quo, you have over 700 million people who have dyslexia today.
We found out that 70% of migrants and refugees actually have access to a mobile phone, but only 30% have access to a mobile phone that has internet capabilities. So we thought, what can a mobile phone actually do?
This is our point, to find some solution for misunderstanding and also some contact between child and child, child and society, and child and parents. And our target is children.
The hackathon succeeded in creating an environment for the exchange of ideas. Present were leading experts on the issues and representatives from the world's largest tech companies. Through the workshops and sessions, they were the students' mentors. And on the final day, their judges.
So we had a group of professional judges. It was people who were experts on the merits issues. It was people from the business background who were able to judge if the idea actually is possible to realize, and we had the people on the technical side to judge how well the students have coded or programmed their idea. So we combined these three unique experiences into our judging board that was then selecting the first and second round of ideas to go to the finals.
24 teams, 3 divisions. The judges chose the top 3 from each bracket to narrow it down to 9 final teams. The winners received the top prize of $2,000. The whole hackathon concluded with a papal blessing during the Angelus prayer in St. Peter's Square.
Un saluto speciale. I'd like to address a special greeting to the university students who have gathered from several parts of the world in the first Vatican Hackathon, which has been promoted by the Secretariat for Communications. Dear youngsters, it is a beautiful thing to put the intelligence that we have been gifted by God at the service of truth and of the needy.
Thanks for watching. Stick around for more on Vaticano. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. It's very early morning in Rome. Inside the Vatican Museums, it's pitch black and there's barely a sound. Only the clinking of the keys and the flashlight are disturbing the nightly rest of the world's most precious collection of art. At 5:30 a.m. sharp, the museum wakes up with the opening of door number 1. The name of the early riser who brings the museum to life is Gianni Crea. He's the senior keykeeper of the Vatican Museums. Gianni's duty is to coordinate the work of the other keykeepers and ensure that each door has a lock and its own key.
There are exactly 2,797 keys. We are 10 key keepers. 5 of us open and 5 close the museum's doors. It takes about 1 hour to open all the doors every day and about 90 minutes to close them. And of course, if we don't find any complications.
At the atrium of the 4 gates, Gianni meets Alessio, selects the right set of keys, and proceeds with his colleague for their daily rounds.
As I open the atrium of the four gates, I can truly smell the essence of history. And this is such a beautiful sensation that nothing else can give me the same emotion.
The daily duty of the keykeepers is nothing less than opening some 300 doors, alight the halls and galleries, and open what many would consider the pearl of the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel.
The Vatican Museums are about 7.5 kilometers long, and every keykeeper walks about 3.5 kilometers each time at opening and closing time.
Imagine that you have to walk 4.5 miles through these resplendent halls every morning, viewing the world's greatest art masterpieces. Gianni's route runs through the 16th century Gallery of Maps. There are 40 panels of painted topographical maps of Italy, of which 80% are precise and accurate.
Now we will use one of the smallest keys to turn on the lights inside the Raphael rooms.
The Raphael rooms used to be the private apartments of Pope Julius II. Here the two colleagues take a short break and enjoy the view of the Belvedere courtyard.
The Vatican Museums are so fascinating and so beautiful that in each corner we can discover something new and unique.
Walking through the rooms, Gianni arrives at the Niccoline Chapel. The frescoes are painted by the famous Florentine artist, Blessed Fra Angelico.
We are now inside the Niccolina Chapel, the private chapel of the Pope. At the moment it is closed and is rarely open to the public.
The window links the Vatican Museums with the Apostolic Palace, where the Pope holds his private audiences. Gianni has been a keykeeper of the Vatican Museums for nearly 16 years. He carries a register and a sealed envelope. This envelope contains the key to the Sistine Chapel. But when it comes to opening the Sistine Chapel, every day he's filled with the same awe that he felt the very first time.
This is for me an extraordinary and special privilege. I have the opportunity to open these doors to all tourists coming from all over the world and visit the Pope's museums, but especially the Sistine Chapel, seat of the conclave since 1492.
Right here, in prayer and absolute secrecy, the College of Cardinals elect the new Pope. St. John Paul II used to say that the Christ of the Sistine Chapel expresses in himself the whole mystery of the visibility of the invisible. The Michelangelo ceiling frescoes tell the story of creation, and the Last Judgment on the altar wall recounts the story of salvation. These marvels were created by a team of the best Renaissance painters: Pietro Perugino, Sandro Botticelli, Domenico Ghirlandaio, and Cosimo Rosselli, who painted the walls with the stories from the Old and New Testaments. These frescoes are considered the most impressive artistic accomplishments of human civilization.
The itinerary we did is unique and extraordinary because each door and each key has its own charm and secret that it reveals to the world.
It's already 8 a.m., the official opening time of the Vatican Museums. The last hall on Gianni's route is the Gallery of Statues.
Each statue speaks about history. Each statue has something different and fascinating, like this one, for example.
After completing his duties, Gianni can relax and enjoy the beautiful view of the Roman morning.
This one is one of the most beautiful spots of the Vatican Museums. This is the Ladder of Bramante, the Scala del Bramante, where we can view the entire panorama of Rome.
Every year, the Vatican Museums provide access to more than 70,000 works of art for 6 million visitors from all over the world. This is possible thanks to Gianni and other personnel who continue to perform these daily duties. Join us next week on Vaticano and learn about the traces God has left us here on Earth. Thanks for watching.